please call roll call.
Mr. Haggard.
Here.
Mr. Rucker.
Here.
Mr. Stevens. Mr. Danford. Here. Mrs. Chrisman. Here. Mrs. Hodges.
Here.
All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again for everyone being here this evening. Since this is kind of a little different than what we typically do, how we'd like to handle this tonight is we'd ask Ms. Shorba and Mr. Jordan if you'll come to the podium. I know the board members have some questions about the plan, which we appreciate receiving that. And then to maintain order, we would like those two to be responding. If you can't respond to a question, then if you want to invite another person up to help do that, that would be fine. Then we may have questions for Mr. Silcott and Mr. Gill. And then if there's an OPAA representative, at the end we'll give them an opportunity, because we received an email today from them as far as some action steps that they would work on. So that's kind of how the meeting's going to be ran. And if we could please maintain order, we'd appreciate that. So if you have any opening comments you'd like to make, go right ahead, and then we'll start asking questions.
I would just like to thank the board for all the time. I would like to thank the board for all the time that you put in, not just to our issue, but the issues we've been facing with our district. And it just makes me very proud to be in our city to see such fine people. Is it on? It's green. I'm sorry.
Those two.
I just want to thank the board for hearing our issues and for considering them. And I just also want to thank them for the time they spend also on issues that are facing our school district now. It makes me very proud to be an employee in the school district in St. Joseph. So thank you very much.
I would also like to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to present the plan to you. I'm sure you all do know that very few days were allowed for this. In fact, Saturday afternoon, I get this call at 12:30 in the afternoon. Dave, can you come over and do a business plan for us? And I go, how many months do I have? You have till Monday morning. So it takes a lot of work to put a business plan together. It should take probably have taken a number of months, as well as having access to financial numbers, which we do not and did not. And of course, that could not have happened generally over a Saturday and Sunday anyway. So these things can get our approximations, but for the most part, we would be re-implementing the plan, the services, the operations that we had prior to the food nutrition services being outsourced.
Well, I'll start off. I had a question.
I say you're making this really too easy.
I know. I had a question about the budget. I know in the past both Ms. Pullen and Mr. Musser have showed us that we have lost money in the past. And what will be done differently, I guess, is my question, to help ensure that we'll at least break even.
Well, only so much money comes in and so much money goes out. This is of course, nonprofit, and one of the things that I have looked at, and this has been since we did put this plan together, because I was given a spreadsheet, And having looked over the last couple of years, there were a few areas that I was concerned about. And if you, actually, I got copies of this if you would like it.
Yes.
There should be enough for everyone. And for a new entity to create a budget, of course, you need to see what the numbers were from previous years. As far as the current budget, I have not seen that. The projected budget for 15-16, I have not seen that. I know it's available now. But basically working on this one particular sheet. And what you're seeing here, item number 1, after this is for the audience, this is a spreadsheet for the years 2000 to 2014. And it is 8 different accounting years. It is very summarized, large numbers, no detail. But where I marked off at the end of 2009 and 10, a long-term experienced administrator for the program retired. And as you can see, bottom line, I'm just looking at the top part, because the bottom part I am not very well versed in. The bottom part, the profits, losses, it's all in the black, for the most part. When you go past that, then we start getting into negative numbers. My first question, based on this, would be where I have marked item number 2, and without footnotes, it's hard for me, of course, I have no answer to that. So we went from $2,485,000 for food in 2010 and 11. 2011-12, we went to $2,992,000. Over $500,000 increase in food. Now, any of you have dealt with accounting, sometimes things are higher one year, lower the next, it evens out. But when it comes to the next year, there's nothing there to particularly even it out, although the food is higher than it had been in the previous years. Certainly affects the bottom line. If you go to the line where it is marked salaries, for the next 3 years, if you will notice, the salaries for the previous 5 years had been approximately $2.1 million. The next 3 years, they rise considerably. Again, no footnote. Benefits rise accordingly. My item number 4, which was the first one I started looking at because that row, the numbers are a little bit smaller, it's easier to handle. If you look at number 4, we go from approximately $50,000 to $70,000 every year in purchased services. Had to ask what that was. That's our software and other services that are given to cafeterias and food service. But in that particular year, we had gone from $77,000 the previous year, and then we go to $173,000. And I asked and asked and asked what took place that year. And it took a while for people to remember, and that's 2 or 3 years ago. And what I was told was that we bought software for that year. New software for all the cafeterias, what we're currently using, which is great, and we do need it. But it's a one-time item. It was charged off as if it was that year's expense. Now, I don't know public accounting, know a little bit about private. In private accounting, if this was my business that I've had in the past, probably would have amortized that over several years, 2, 3, 5, whatever the current rules are. But not 1 year. If I was basing a financial decision on looking at this year, I would pull that out because it's not going to occur again. Probably will in 2 or 3 more years when we need upgraded software. Moving on to item number 5 that I have marked. All the previous years, for the most part, the last 4 or 5 years, we have spent over $100,000 in equipment purchases, which as many cafeterias as we have, makes sense. A lot of equipment there. But in 2013-14, it has dropped to $26,000. It's a considerable drop. And the other document that I had for this current year, I think we're somewhere around, if I remember correctly, $15,000. My question is, are we maintaining the equipment that we have? Or who is maintaining the equipment that we have? Number 6 on the supplies. Accordingly, for many, many years, $250,000, $246,000, $251,000, and then we get to 13-14, that's $144,000. That's a very large drop, which would be great, but my question is, why such a change? Because when you drop an expense to $100,000, that gives you a lot more profit. As in the year before, when you added $100,000, that's an anomaly. Creates a much larger loss. So, not having the detail, I can't answer anything much more than that. But looking at this one particular document, these were the numbers that stood out. Based on this, I would certainly suggest that prior to the 2010-11 year, we ran that with a competent long-term director. We maintained a positive balance. We had good employees. We had happy employees. We fed our students. And ladies and gentlemen of the board, we can do it again.
Brad,
Thank you.
is it okay if, push the button? Is it okay if Bo responds to some of those numbers? Because those are, good questions.
So, obviously it's important for me to acknowledge up front that none of these numbers happened on my watch or were submitted by me at year end because I wasn't on the job. But having said that, I would just comment a few things on top of what David said and provide what little insight on the history of food service from a numbers standpoint. And this was mentioned, this wasn't on the board meeting. I think it was in my notes on the board meeting agenda and the email that I sent the board, but it's important to understand that in 09, 010, the last year we were profitable when we operated in-house. That was the last year we were able to have a 99% average daily participation for snacks. And beginning in 2010 and 2011, that participation dropped to 14.6%, currently sits at just at 11%. And so that's a really important distinction to make because we were able to produce a profit from those snacks that we no longer can. And obviously Mr. Jordan does talk about some variations in costs, and he has an idea of why some of those are. And I can't speak to the details of none of Mr. Jordan's questions were directed at me. I don't know who answered those questions for him, but I was not asked any of those questions. But missing from Mr. Jordan's analysis is our costs on a per meal basis, and also a labor cost on a per meal basis. And so, obviously, the profitability of the food service program. You have a certain amount of fixed costs, and for us, fixed labor costs. And so, and these numbers are spelled out because it does show you your total lunches served, your total breakfast served. And what I can tell you, in the 4 years leading up to OPAA taking over, there was a 31.6% increase in labor costs per meal served, while at the same time, over that 4-year period, there was a 14.6% decrease in actual lunches served. And so that is the most pivotal analysis that the board can look at. We've had increasing costs with decreasing lunches served, and that is, in my opinion, the biggest driver in the losses that were incurred in the 3 years leading to OPAA. And so I just wanted to add that to the discussion. Again, I wasn't here in those years, but I can tell you that, the snacks changed with the previous directors last year, and the labor, if you wanted to crunch the numbers before you, the labor costs went up while meals went down. And I don't think that we were unusual in lunches served going down. That is consistent with national trends due to some of the new federal regulations. So the per meal cost is a very important piece of this analysis, and I just want to share that with the board. Thank you.
I do want to share with the board that there is an equation that is used that the federal government brings to us. And it's the equation to figure labor hours per meal served. And we figure those hours. It lets us know how many hours each kitchen just needs and their, how much staff that they need, how many hours that they need. That is, we get money for. So we put that equation in. You have your lunches, 3 breakfasts equals 1 lunch, so many dollars in snacks equals 1 lunch. And you put that together, as far as our plan goes, when we go to each school, we'll see how many lunches are you serving, how many snacks are you serving, how many breakfasts are you serving, how many after-school snacks are you serving. We'll take that all into consideration, and we'll put that into that equation. We'll say, this school needs 97 hours, or this school needs 30 hours of full-time or full and part-time workers. So that is already laid out within the government. We know that equation, and we will fix that problem if there is a problem, but we do know how to handle as far as the employees go.
Let me ask a question. Did you
Stand first.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay, you may not know the answer to this, and I think you'd already mentioned that you don't, but one of the things on the year 2011, 2012, that line item with food that is nearly $3 million, which is $500,000 more than across from 2006 on, it's 2.992338. You see that number?
Yes, that is the year that a new director took over, and he was unfamiliar with commodities and rebates that we can get on the food, and so we did not take advantage of those, so the cost for our food went up.
Okay, so that makes sense for part of that. I've also heard, and you don't have to answer this, but I've also heard concerns that we've lost food in our warehouse that has gone bad too. So I don't know if that is that particular year, but if you pull out that $500,000 and you go down to the line of Section 12, the gain or loss, and you take out $500,000, then if I have that right, that would just be a loss of $33,000. Is that correct? Okay. Because the font is it's really small there. And the same with the purchase of software. When we received this, Mr. Master, can I ask, did you put this together, or was this already put together in a file? Who put this together?
Well, I accumulated the numbers based off of what was submitted to the state of Missouri and federal government.
So this isn't directly from our computer systems. This is some information that you pull from the different places and put it in here in your own spreadsheet. This is your own.
This is information that the school district submitted to the state at the year listed here. I simply accumulated that information into one large file for historical purposes. So this is our information. I didn't necessarily put this information together other than pulling it off the federal government or the state of Missouri's website and summarizing it in one spot.
And I really appreciate you answering that, because the reason that I bring it up has nothing to do with you standing there, but I have asked for numbers I have asked for these numbers for a long time and have not been able to receive these numbers. And so the fact that they showed up last Friday surprised me, because previous employees could not find where we came up with that $600,000 loss, where we came up with these other numbers. So that is why I asked where these numbers come from. I want to be able to make decisions that are based on numbers that are accurate and that make sense with the issues that go with this. And so what you've explained with some of the anomalies helps me look at those numbers, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Rector. Can you tell me approximately how many more employees would we have to employ to take back over the program?
Well, the employees we have that have been hired by OPAA, the ones that are currently working in our kitchens can be absorbed by the St. Joseph School District. They've already had their background checks. They're ready to go. Just like when OPAA handed our subs the application to come to them, when we had our first meeting with them, we could bring them right back over to us. And they can work with the school district.
So, and how many are we talking about? The employees you're talking about?
Pardon?
How many employees are you talking about there?
In total,
back
I mean,
over.
the number of open employees we have? We have 57
50.
part-time workers, 57
57.
part-time. Which some of those positions, you have to understand, were at that time before they took them, were St. Joe School District positions. People retired, they quit, they couldn't handle the pressure of it all, so they left. So they're filling the positions that were left vacant because of the change. So they took their spots.
Is it 57 on, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
And and my understanding is that the school district pays for every open employee anyway, it's a bill back from OPAA. So we're paying every open employee's wages now. The only one we're not paying is for the director. But otherwise, we're already paying anyway, so it's really not a cost because we're already doing it.
Ms. Daly?
What drives you to believe that you can take this nutrition services back? And I ask that question so that everyone can hear it, okay? So what drives you to think that our own employees can take something back that is given to a vendor?
We have done this for decades and decades and decades before OPAA came. And we are knowledgeable about our jobs. We go to conferences, we go to classes, we do webinars. We are very educated about our jobs. We are nutrition professionals. Yes, thank you. We're nutrition
Okay, I understand you're nutrition professionals, and I get that, and I know you love the kids. Question is, what about the financial side of it? How are we going to make that work?
Well, you have to understand, everything's already in place. Everything was in place before OPAA came. We have the warehouse, we have the staffing, we have everything. We have everything required to do this job. And so we can do it. I mean, everything's already in place. We have everything, the trucks, the vehicles, everything. They're using all of our things for them to profit off of us and off of our community.
I think you would also find, and because if we have the time is not there, is that we could do the financials and that type of thing with the help of Mr. Musser, because he has access to everything. We have not, so a defining exact number I certainly cannot give you. But as Kathleen said, everything is in place. If you had looked at the organizational chart, you would see that for the most part, the long list of the people doing all the work, from the reporting, secretary, support, cafeteria managers, warehouse, purchasing, currently, and the sub-coordinator, they're all there doing those jobs right now. We would be adding, as I said earlier, we would add a dietitian, which we certainly do need. We don't have one on staff. I'm sure OPAA has a number of them on their staff, which they should, and we should too. We would suggest an interim food service director, and pretty much everybody on this page I have talked to in the last couple of days. And they're very excited about this. They believe in this proposal. They believe they can do the work. And by changing, as far as cost goes, by changing, losing 2 assistant directors and hiring a dietitian, we can gain about $20,000 plus benefits there. And of course, if we name an interim food service director, which we don't have, but we have someone that is very knowledgeable, that the employees in the nutritional service department are most happy to follow, that it would require a change of his position to be changed to, I believe it's a technical director. All this has changed so much the last year, I'm not exactly sure what classification. But if that were the case, if he was a technical director, that would be an additional cost of $20,000 as well. So that would be somewhat of a wash. But as far as being very technical without spending several weeks putting the actual budget together, this is as close as I can come in 5 days.
First of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for all this stuff you've been working on. Just for the record, I worked in food service for 20 years. I got a call from the principal of Spring Garden, The Rock, Bob Clemens, said, "Dennis, come over here, I need you to help me at lunchtime supervise the kids so the teachers can get a break." So I agreed to do it. I didn't know I was going to do it for 23 straight years. I thought it was just a one-year thing. And then towards the end, I did start getting paid. I didn't get paid the first probably 15, 16 years. Then I got like 10 or 15 bucks or something. I went over there for 2 lunch hours. Of course, about 500 students. But I did get to rub elbows every day with the food service there. And I got to tell you, those women were fantastic. They were. All I had to do is go over there at lunchtime and help out and go back to my little job. Then I got stupid and ran for the board. I had to resign from because they wouldn't let me keep doing it. I did ask if I could still volunteer, but they said no. But when you talk about those cupcakes and those snacks, I remember that kids bought those things like hotcakes. The only problem is the parents ended up taking them to the dentist because they had all these bad teeth. It was a good idea for a moneymaker, but the right thing to do was to take those cupcakes. I think it was Little Debbie's, I remember, because I walked by and get one myself. But that was a healthy thing to do. And I know even before that we had the Pepsi and Coke. We had the soft drinks in the schools. That was a big hit on the district. I can't remember, I know Bo wasn't here then, but it was the right thing to do because it's not healthy for our kids. So nutrition is always changing. But I just wanted to let you know, I'm in a very hard position here. I'm a board member. I look at these numbers. We lost, I think, Bo, correct me, $400,000 a year for many years. And then the OPAA idea came, and then it turned it around really quick. But what we don't want to do is hurt our community and our workers. I have a food service person that works for me. Okay. I talked to her the last couple of days. First time I've ever even touched this issue because I don't want to feel people, pressure on people. And I've talked to the kids. OPAA has done good in some areas, especially the profits and all that. But I've got my own research here lately. That's why I abstained the first time. Anytime you take a $400,000 to $600,000 profit off the books for the school district, hey, time out. We need to have further discussion. And I really thank you because now you've enlightened me, and the workers have enlightened me as a board member. And I just want to hear both sides, and I want to thank you guys for doing it. That's all.
Okay, so you mentioned that we have an organizational chart with a lot of people already in place. And there was some discussion of the warehouse and stuff like that. I wondered if we could hear from Mr. Silcott and Mr. Gill about how they think that would work.
So are you asking me about the organizational flow chart? Is that what you're asking me about?
Well, yes, but whatever you feel we should know is fine too, since you're up there.
Well, first of all, I believe that the statement that David and Kathy made is absolutely valid. We have the people in place to do this work. What Mr. Gill will tell you, I'm sure he'll agree with me, in that I was amazed when we sat and listened to 90-plus food service workers. We were amazed at the depth of knowledge that they had. I was absolutely blown away. There were questions that I was afraid to ask them because I was afraid that they would not know the answer. And they knew the answers, and they went beyond what I asked them to answer me to the point of, I couldn't tell you if it was a good answer or not. Okay? But they know their job. So when you look at the chart, you see everybody in place that can make this happen. Okay? As far as the top end of the chart, okay, let me just tell you that I believe the thing to do here is to do the right thing. Okay? When Mr. Gill and I talked about this, and we got pretty passionate about listening to these guys, and our heart went out to them. And we believe it's time to right a wrong. So, Mickey and I are willing to step into whatever role we're called upon to make this work. Okay? We may be a part of the permanent solution. I don't know that. Part of the permanent solution may be we know we need to hire a nutritionist. It could be that that person could move into the role of director. If that's the best solution, then Mr. Gill and I will gladly capitulate to that person and help them any way we can to get into the school district and understand how it works and how you interact with the people and how to spend the budgets and so forth. We'll do whatever we have to do to make this work. That's our pledge. So what I'm saying is I believe that it's very important to be flexible. Okay? I know that we're waiting upon a comprehensive, what you call it, comprehensive personnel. Thank you. We're waiting on that. I think it's important we see that. So again, we're willing to step in and do what we can do that we believe is in the best interest of school district employees and the taxpayers.
Mr. Record.
Mr. Jordan, would you come back to the mic? Okay. Let's go back to the business side once again. We have 57 employees that are part-time. And so if we go back to where we're at now, where we were, they become full-time employees, is that correct?
No, not all of them. Just like I explained, we'll go through the equation for each school.
I'm sorry?
We'll go through that equation I mentioned earlier
Okay.
to figure labor hours for each school, and then we'll determine, who we need where and how many full-time, how many part-time.
Okay. I was curious. I think I didn't hear that part, what the equation was. But that's great. I just wondered how you figured it would affect your bottom line. That was my question. But that works. That's great.
Since I'm a citizen of St. Joseph and a worker, we will make sure that we use the money accordingly and correctly for the citizens of St. Joseph.
Do you have an estimate?
No, I have not figured that out yet. I haven't had time to get with each school to see.
If I may.
We had several weeks. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I will tell you this. I mean, again, we haven't had a lot of time to work with this. But I know that when we started looking at the problem with being short-staffed, that we sent an email out to all the kitchen managers, and we asked them, and ideally, knowing that we've got to watch the bottom line, ideally, how many positions, and when we say positions, we're really talking about man hours, not necessarily, you talk about 57 positions. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be another 57 positions. It could be 40, but the numbers may need to change to be more efficient to cover the workload at the buildings. Okay? Because we have people that work 2 hours, 3 hours, and when these folks get to 28 hours, they're gone. Out the door they go. And the staff that are there have to pick that up. I asked for that information, They have sent me that information. However, I haven't really had time to sit and really look at it. And I still think that obviously I need to sit down with these folks and talk to them about that more to make sure that it is the best numbers that we see. That's going to take a little bit of time, but we can certainly do that.
Who sent you the information?
Pardon me? The managers.
The managers at each one of the cafeterias.
Food service managers, yes.
And you're the one, Mr. Soklat, that would oversee how that was distributed with the input from the kitchen managers?
Well, I mean, I would be, yes. I mean, I just asked for that, just to start looking at what would it take to cover this so that, again, the women aren't overburdened on their workload. That was a really large issue that we heard with them when we talked to them.
Mr. Munson.
Yeah, I just want to add to the discussion that this is no small, this is a big, to know the number of how many people would come on board to be full-time is crucial to knowing what the financial future will be with doing this in-house. This is my role here as Chief Financial Officer, okay? So what I do is crunch numbers. And so I just want to share a few numbers with the board for you to consider. The board paid health insurance on average costs the district $7,830 annually. So with 57 employees coming on full-time, it'd be $446,000. Now if we say it's only 40, then we're talking about $350,000. So
Excuse me, please, can you hold it down in the audience?
again, I don't know the numbers, they don't know the numbers, but just know that whatever those full-time employees are, it will be a large expense. It won't be as if the cost will be the same whether they're part-time or full-time. There is a big difference. We need to understand that.
Ms. Stanton.
It's going to ask a question, I don't remember that. Oh, what I did want to ask was, it was back to the 28-hour thing. Help me understand, so after they worked 28 hours, they leave?
Yes.
Yes, they leave.
And y'all move Friday.
Okay. Why did they leave? They're only required, they can only work.
Excuse me, please.
They can only work a maximum of 28 hours a week. So if they reach that 28 hours, if it's in the middle of the shift, or usually they're all gone by Thursday, so Fridays are usually really bad days because at that point, there are no subs left.
Can I ask, how often does that happen? Now, how many schools? Can you give an estimate? Does it happen weekly?
It happens daily, almost daily. At Central, we go without a 3-hour runner almost daily. Almost daily. That's just my school. We have compiled the numbers from all the schools, how many subs that we've been shorted. So we do have that information if you'd like to have it, but it is a huge problem. It is.
Mr. Everett.
This question for Mr. Musser. You talked about the expense there for taking on full-time employees. How much do we pay open to run the program?
Well, we pay them a per meal price plus the labor they bill back for, that is in excess of what the employees that we had at the time that came on board.
And so this last year was what?
Well, I don't have that information. Well, I would ask what, I mean, there's a per meal price, which is built into that, the cost of the food and the cost of the labor that they provide. If you could give me a little bit of insight into what you're looking for, I could have you an answer.
Where I was going was, can we take that money that we were paying over and put it back in the program? Offset those costs that you just quoted.
I mean, the way I look at it is with the profits or the net income that we're running now, we could obviously add more additional resources from a labor perspective to help with the issues that they're noting right now.
Okay, just for the record, I didn't hear anybody say we're going to hire 40 people or 50 people. It's the total number. I did hear them say that they would figure out what hours they need to get the job done.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. we still need to get a new HR director in, working with Mr. Musser, CFO, Dr. Jake Long and his staff, along with this as a guide, with a few, maybe a committee of some of the top people here to come up with the answers. I think as a collaboration, we can probably get this done. And realize that we have to let the administration help set this up. We can't do this without the administration, okay? So we got to work together, and the board, I think I speak for most board members here, that we promise to do our part too, to make sure that all parties are happy and satisfied with the service, okay?
Ms. Stanford.
Mr. Muster, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but can you give a ballpark figure? Is it $1.5 million, $2 million, $4 million that we might pay OPA? I mean, I know when I see the monthly payments that they're pretty big numbers.
Sure, I mean, let me, as you guys further discussion, if you just simply want to know how much we paid OPA year to date, I'll run a report right now, give me a few minutes, and I'll have it up for you shortly.
Thank you.
I did notice in the audits I went to that meeting that it was significant enough that when we paid OPA, the $1.5 million was mentioned in the audit. Why, I don't know, but for it to show up there, I think is a significant thing that the board should look at.
Okay, any other questions?
Oh, yes. Here's the question I forgot earlier. I know you've done this before, but and maybe now you're doing this, purchasing food. Is that something that OPA's been doing now? That's something that nutrition services can do?
Yes. We did in the past before they came, and we will make use of the commodities, of open orders on commodities where we can receive free food from the government to use in our programs. It's very good quality food. And we'll be using, yes, our local vendors, and it was just best for everyone.
And that was one of the things that we wanted when we went with OPA's, we wanted to use local vendors. I just didn't know how much of a hardship it was for nutrition services to get that attached to food suppliers, but it sounds like you have.
We'll just put out bids like we did before and have a big bid on it, and we'll see who comes up the winner.
All right, thank you.
I think you said in a committee meeting when you guys came and talked that the commodity order is due soon?
It was due February 27th, and we did get, we did talk to Mr. Essner with DESI, and he allowed us till the end of this week to get our commodity order in. So, yes. So we are.
Have you prepared something in case that were to happen?
Oh, yes. We're always pressing forward and hoping for the best. So, yes, we have.
How much do you get to purchase in commodities?
This year we get over $206,000. It's like $206,500 and $635. Oh, thank you. $206,635.
And that's annually?
That is for this year because of our ADA, our average daily attendance. That's how much approved for St. Joseph.
Okay. Thank you very much. We appreciate you being here and your feedback and everything that you provided us. At this time, if our OPA reps, if you'd like to come up, and if I could just remind the audience that please be respected and allow us to ask them questions as well.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. My name is Craig Cohen. I'm Senior Vice President of Operations for OPA. I think I was here a couple of months ago and spoke to you briefly. The other OPA representatives here are, we're going to start with your Director of Nutrition Services, Tanya McRae. Tanya is a St. Joseph resident. She has a child in the school district here. We have Jeff Roberts. He is the area director that covers northwest Missouri and northern Kansas. We have Linda Schaefer. Linda Schaefer is assistant director. She She manages a lot of things with inventory and ordering. Linda was I think a 25-plus year district employee, member of the community. We have Amy Flynn. She is an assistant in OPA's operation. And we have Jack Zupan. Jack has been with OPA for about a year. He's a regional director of operations. He will be assuming the role of, if we continue, guiding Tanya and the district. He grew up in St. Joe, went to Eugene Fields Elementary School, Truman Middle School, Central High School. So we do have people as part of the OPA team that are part of the community. And that is part of how we try to build a relationship with a community. I've got a few comments, and I'm sure you have questions, so whichever way you want to handle it.
Go right ahead.
Okay. First, just a reintroduction to OPA. We are not new to food service management. We're a locally owned company in Missouri, started in Kirksville, Missouri. We've operated for 35 years in the state. We manage school food service programs for 105 school districts in the state of Missouri. Including our outstate schools, we manage food service programs for 170,000 students a day. And when we think about that, we think in terms of number of smiles. The number of smiles that we can create each day through feeding a meal that is delivered by people that work in the local communities. Your folks here, when somebody said that the lunch ladies are great, or the cafeteria staff or the words they use, that is a true statement. That is a true statement. They are great. I think that this Board of Education has been presented with a little bit of a false choice. I think one side is OPA is in here, running the program, running it totally their way, and with that comes a profitable operation for the school district and totally unhappy. Or let some school district employees, that have worked for many years, run the program. Everybody will be happy. There will be no more problems. There will be no more concerns. And the finances, you're asked for a leap of faith that they will be okay if you make the decision today, because you don't know. I mean, before OPA was hired, I didn't make up the numbers. I got the same place Poe got the numbers off the DESI website, which came from your school district, that you lost $1.7 million in the previous 3 years before we were hired. And this whole issue has been posed of one of local control. And I wanted to address that because I think that's really important. This is the school board that hired us. And you have an administration. And this is your program. You have local control. You haven't had it from the start. We have been given direction by the school administration. And we were given direction to maximize participation. We were given direction to create a financially sustainable program. And we were given direction to keep the school district in compliance with the everly increasing complexity that the USDA has put on school food programs nationwide. And there's yet another change. They talked about being school professionals, school food service professionals. The USDA just issued a statement last week. It was announced at the School Nutrition Association Legislative Action Conference that I attended, that there are new rules related to hiring standards for directors of nutrition services and for annual training for not only the directors, but everybody who works in the kitchen. And yes, it's called professional standards. But you have local control now. So there's some of these issues, concerns that have been raised that if you choose, you can direct us to do things differently today and still reap some of the financial benefits. For instance, if the school believes that there's too much work put on the kitchen workers, we can add hours. We could cut choices. We've tried to increase the number of choices that we offer to students to try to increase participation. But if that's too much work, if you say, we want to try doing this with fewer choices, see if participation sticks, we can do that. So you do have local control. We take direction from you. The only thing we are not going to do is we're not going to let you be in a situation where you are, and we're involved in violating the compliance guidelines of the USDA. That's a pretty easy place to draw the line. So let me address a couple particular issues that have been raised during the previous discussion, and then give you a proposition. Okay. So let's talk about food purchasing. This is not because Craig Cohen or any of those folks sitting there are necessarily great people or particularly knowledgeable, but we do have purchasing power because we feed 170,000 kids a day. So I'm going to give you two specific examples and then one third price. So your school district purchased fruits and vegetables locally. So you got it from a company that is a small local grower who bought the bulk of the produce from CNC Produce in North Kansas City, Missouri. We buy the produce, most of it, from CNC Produce of North Kansas City. And I will tell you, when we first got here, I'm going to run the numbers later, but the day we got here, we looked at the unit pricing for fresh fruits and vegetables compared to our unit pricing for fresh fruits and vegetables. And we compared based upon the quantities we expected to serve in St. Joe, and that pricing difference was $250,000 on fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables came from the same distributor, CNC Produce, which sourced it from many spots, mostly California, I presume. Prairie Farms. You had Prairie Farms or Highland Dairy when we got here. Our pricing from Highland Dairy was 3 cents per carton different, lower. That equates to, at your current levels of participation, roughly $50,000 a year in milk. Now let's talk about the what's often referred to as the prime distributor, Kohl's or Springfield Grocer. Somebody's going to bring the bulk of the food items to you. Schools go out for bids. They get pricing from various distributors, and they decide where they're going to buy, what they're going to buy from where, and at the best price they can get. We do use Kohl, but we don't get pricing directly from Kohl. We go to Tyson and say, we're going to be buying $1.5 million of chicken from you. I'm sorry, not $1.5 million of chicken, $1.5 million pounds of chicken from you. We go to Jenny O and say, we're going to buy 4 full truckloads of turkey for you. That's 144,000 pounds of turkey. We go to General Mills, who we're the largest institutional customer of General Mills in the Midwest, and say, we want to cut a deal with you for cereal, Pillsbury biscuits, and a variety of other things. We go to Lamb Weston for potatoes and say, we want to cut a deal with you. And then once the deal is made, then we go to Kohl and say, we want you to bring this into your warehouse, ship it to us, and we agree upon a markup percentage that is better than any school district gets. And it's not because there's anything special about OPAA other than the fact that we buy a lot more of their product than St. Joe or other school districts in the state of Missouri do. And that is how you've gotten the food savings. Mr. Rucker, you asked the question about how many dollars the school spent with us. I don't know either. I will tell you, out of that comes all of the food, all of the supplies, and so there is a profit. But what we can tell you is the things that we have done have led you to be in a much improved financial position. There was a question about food cost escalation between 2009 and current. And you'll see last year it went back down. But two things were going on, just to inform you. One thing is in 2010 through 2013, there was rampant food cost inflation. You all saw it in the grocery stores. We felt it to the tune of about 5 to 7% a year, sort of spread across all the different things we were buying. That was one reason that your food costs went up. The other reason is that in 2012-13, which is the last year you operated it yourself, the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act came into play. And that raised prices, raised the cost of what was required to be on the plate dramatically. To give you an idea of what it was, the School Nutrition Association estimated that amount at 35 cents a meal in additional food costs in fruits and vegetables, principally in fruits and vegetables and whole grains is really where it came from. So those are the reasons that food costs went up, in addition to any other things that may have been peculiar to the school district. So, and you talked about, or the group that was up here talked about that when you had an experienced director, the program operated profitably, and it did. A lot of things have changed since that director left with respect to the regulatory environment for food services in schools. It's gotten much more complex. I will tell you, we've hired registered dietitians, and unless they have substantial K through 12 food service background, all that registered dietitian information is great for special needs kids, kids with allergies, all that sorts of things, but it does not move smoothly into school food service, because dietetics is science-based. School food service is regulatory-based. There's science behind it, but it's a regulatory-based program. I get passionate about this stuff, so I can go on forever, but I'm not going to. Let me just tell you what my proposal is. I think you as a school district, you probably will choose to discount this, but we really do have the best interest of our schools and the kids in the schools that we serve in mind. That's our number one goal. And I honestly think for you to try to transition this back to self-operation in the amount of time we have between now and the beginning of next school year would be a tough order. My proposition to you is sort of twofold. One is we continue working with OPAA, and we would do two things. One is we have Jack Supan, who's the new regional director, and he's from St. Joe. Doesn't really know your ladies very well, so he hasn't built a history with them. Have him meet one-on-one with your kitchen managers, and he would be helped by Lane Teal. Lane is another regional director of ours, and she is she's just great. And Jack and Lane, have them meet one-on-one with your kitchen managers and flesh out the issues and see which ones are things that we could say, you know what, we're just going to do that. Jake made a decision, and we were fine with it to go back to the St. Joe shirts. That's fine. I think people ought to look uniform, but whether they wear an OPAA shirt or a St. Joe shirt, we don't have skin in that game. I mean, we want to do what's right for the school. If they'll feel better in St. Joe shirts, as long as they look professional and presentable, I think that's a good thing. And then the second part is we've made a proposal to Jake and to Bo, and I say both because I'm not sure exactly whether they're both involved in it or whether it's just one or the other, to set up a Child Nutrition Leadership Council, where we would have OPAA representatives, Tanya, probably Jack, maybe Linda, and 5 of the kitchen managers, and maybe a couple of principals, maybe somebody from finance, to work together to try to go through these problems and get them resolved. It's certainly it's your choice to make whether you retain OPAA or take it self-operated. That's a heavy decision, and I think you've got a group of ladies who, I think, want to do the right things, and you've got some district employees that are willing to step up and take on additional duties, and I think that's commendable. The question is, they talked about having decades of child nutrition experience. We've managed programs in a lot of different areas for many years. We have a lot of resources that we can bring to the table. And the proposition would be to give it one more cycle. If you don't like what you see, give yourself time to hire an experienced, effective director of nutrition to serve you well. That's it. I'm open to questions.
Okay, questions?
I have one too. And you probably know about the finances, about how much our school district pays OPA. Mr. Messer gave us a sheet for 9 months. It is $2.1 million. But if you add April and May at the cost of $600,000 per month, that will add up to $3.3 million. Does that sound in the ballpark of what the school district is paying OPA?
If that's what came from Bose, I mean, it sounds a little bit high, but
I noted on the sheet, Chris, that when you saw a $615,000 payment in February, that was for both December and January. As you may recall, that was a time of great change, and we had some people that were responsible for these areas no longer with us. So the February number is inflated because it's 2 months worth of expense. But certainly, you can take it. You can take a look at your average, your expense today. We've paid OPA through January, and so you can take your total expense by how many months they've been here and extrapolate it out. And sure, it is a significant amount of money that we have paid them.
Well, sure, because July it wouldn't be much of an expense, and nor would August, since we don't start school until that second week. But when you're looking at the months that we are in school, that is a good $500,000. And if it's 2.1 now, just $500,000, just adding 2 months of $1 million, that is over $3 million. So it seems to me that somebody would have to know exactly how much money the school district is paying over. And I would assume that you would know. Because this is a business proposition, and it seems to me that you would know the line item that what you're getting from the St. Joseph School District. And you're prepared for everything else here. And if we keep going back and saying it's a financial decision, and that is a piece of it, but there's also an employee piece of this too. But if we're going to the finance piece, what would be the numbers that you say the school district has paid you?
Thank you. I figure. I'll make one statement. If you paid us $3 million in a year and you ran, let's say $2.5 million of food costs, so you took the $3 million away, ran $2 million of food costs, I think your profits go away.
Okay, can I ask you, what percentage profit do you make from our school district?
I will tell you just a round number. We make, I'm not going to give away every proprietary piece of information.
Wait.
But ma'am, I will tell you.
This is a public entity that is paid for with taxpayer dollars. What profit do you get from it?
Actually, you're not paying for it with taxpayer dollars, ma'am. You know who's paying for it? The federal government and the paid students. Because you're running, ma'am, because you're running, wait.
I'm going to ask people to start leaving if we can't be quiet and let everyone have their say, please. Thank you.
When the district was losing money, the money that was lost, that was funded by taxpayers. If the district is in the black, the money is coming from the state, which gets it from the federal government, and from the paid students. The district and the district taxpayers have not had to subsidize the program 1 penny since OPA's been here. The taxpayers The 75,000 residents of St. Joe and the taxpayers have not had to fund this program during the time OPA's been here. In the 3 years preceding that, they funded it to the tune of $1.7 million. And that is, those are real numbers.
What's the profit? What's the percentage profit that you get from?
The percentage profit before general administrative expenses, about 6%. It is one of our lowest profit schools, and we can do that because there's so much volume.
Thank you.
Mr. Rucker?
I had a question about, we had a roundtable discussion last week, and the ladies brought some things to the table that we discussed. One of the things you referenced today was about the USDA products and so on and so forth. I met with some ladies, and they showed me pictures of things from places like Chile and Thailand and wherever. Nothing about USDA on them. Understand me, the products that we're serving, they go to our kids, and they're our most vulnerable. And so if we're not following the guidelines, I mean, you tell me, I'm asking, are we not following the guidelines all the time in the products that we're buying?
We're absolutely following the guidelines. If there are, so I saw some emails that were floating around related to USDA and so forth, and those were from parts of the USDA site that frankly didn't apply to the situation they were talking about. So the requirements are for us to buy two parts. Anything that is donated foods and is made in America. So what we do, OPAA does it a little bit differently than most of the schools in the state of Missouri, because we've worked special arrangements with Matthew Essner and Karen Root and Desi to allow us to do donated foods differently. To ease the product flow from all of our schools, we put all of the school districts' entitlement into proteins. So chicken, pork, turkey, and we use up all the money that way, as opposed to getting it through what's called USDA brown box, where the reference was made to open orders. Those items, the things we buy, we know precisely the product we're going to get. The things that come through the USDA donated foods program, through the state truck or the brown box or donated foods or the various ways it's referred to, those are bought at auction, basically, by the USDA. It's a different manufacturer every time, perhaps. Some of the food is good quality. Some of the food, frankly, is substandard quality. We stopped serving, as a company, everything USDA brown box that was anything whole wheat. The pasta was bad, the kids wouldn't eat it. The tortillas were worse, the kids wouldn't eat it. The flour was often out of date. And so we, as a company, on behalf of our clients, stopped doing that.
You stopped using USDA?
We stopped using what is referred to as USDA donated food. Instead, we get all the dollar entitlement, and you see it on your bills every month, the commodities that are received. We get it through cold wholesale, and it's Tyson chicken, it's Jenny-O turkey. It's things that the way the state program runs, you can get those products, but you can only get about 20% of the total dollars through the channel that we use. We get 100% of the dollars for the districts through that channel. And frankly, it's a better channel. Because it comes weekly, it doesn't come once a month where the custodians are having to unload, half a truck of food and find some place to store it. So that said, we just got our allocation from Matthew Essner. I don't know if I have it here, but the average state entitlement we think is going to be around 27 cents per lunch. He gave OPAA, on behalf of all of our school districts, about 10% more than that, because he knows we can maximize the use of commodity products for our schools, because we design our menu around the products that we're going to buy, and we don't have to wait and hope what comes in on the state truck. We basically work out a different deal for commodities with the state of Missouri, that all of our schools get the entitlement they deserve. They just get it in different products. They get it all in proteins and cheese and French fries, and they don't get it in little bits and pieces of fruits and vegetables and pasta. And
Well, my concern, sir, is per the conversations we had with our food workers, and they had documentation.
Oh, yeah, let me, you were going down the things that may have come from Chile or another country. We buy U.S. whenever we can. There are certain food items that at certain times of the year may not be available in the U.S. So for instance, there's times of the year where lettuce is not readily available in the U.S. and everybody goes and gets it from Mexico, or grapes from Chile, or other things. And that is perfectly okay under USDA regulations in school food service if product is not available at a particular time or at a competitive price. You can go outside the U.S. But I would venture to say 95+% of our product in terms of volume and probably over 98% in terms of dollars from the U.S.
But is there any oversight on when you bring stuff from other areas? Because I saw pictures of stuff that was outdated. Cans that are rusty and the food spoiled.
If the cans are rusty or the products are outdated, the kitchen managers in that kitchen should have thrown it away and completed a waste log. We don't, and I will tell you this right now. My presumption is you're going to vote us out. Okay, so I will tell you, I'll make this pledge. My pledge to you is if any OPAA employee serves food, and we can put this in as a contract amendment, any OPAA employee serves food that is improper, unsafe, inedible, we will give them a first and final warning, and on the second time, they will be terminated. Would you and your new HR director, you make a decision, would you put your workers up to that same pledge? Because we, as a company, don't tolerate that. Dented cans, rusted cans are supposed to be removed from the storeroom, and they're supposed to be isolated and then disposed of once a waste log is completed. And so, if kids are being served food that doesn't look good in the kitchen, you got to ask the kitchen manager, why is that? If food is outdated, we never want to serve outdated food. In fact, when we took over, we, with the administration that was here in place, looked at pallets and pallets and pallets and pallets of outdated food. Tanya was here, she was looking at it. There must have been 4 pallets just of cooking oil that was outdated that had to be disposed of. There were all sorts of foods. So we understand about outdated food and we don't want to serve it. Our company's reputation is at risk. We serve 170,000 kids a day. Taco Bell, if some kid gets E. coli, they can survive it after spending millions and millions of dollars. Kid gets sick, dies at OPAA, this company's out of business. So we take food safety incredibly.
What do you say about the accusation? Just come throw it out there because I want to make sure that we have all the bases covered. We had this all came out in a roundtable last week, so it's not a secret. Bad smelling meat that was, I don't know if that recall on it or what, but somehow we got a batch of meat that seemed like, from what I understand, I could be clear wrong, from what I understand is it kept coming. Even after it was told to whoever it was supposed to be told to, and it had a spoiled smell, and the kids wouldn't eat it. But we kept getting it. And what do you say? I don't know. I'm just asking.
I know the product you're referring to.
Okay.
First of all, I thought that particular. We have checked with Desi. We checked with Desi before we ever bought it. The reason we bought it is that in trying a variety of ground beef products that we taste tested with kids, that was the favorite taste test for use in things like tacos and so forth. Whether the ladies believe it or not, it did. It wasn't a pricing issue, it was a taste issue. However, it was brought to our attention earlier in the year at another school district, and I thought I'd given direction to stop buying the product. At any rate, we now have stopped buying the product. A replacement product, a different ground beef has arrived today, I'm told by Linda Schaefer, and the product in question will be removed tomorrow. It will not be served at this school anymore, and we're phasing it out across the company. But the product was perfectly safe, and it was perfectly acceptable by DESE as a product that could be sold in school food service, because it is being sold around the country in school food service.
Okay, I understand exactly what you're saying and everything, but why would you continue to serve that up until today? If they didn't- Please, that's not why I'm asking the question.
Sir,
Please, thank you. I'm asking this question of you gentlemen. Why would you continue to serve something that the staff has been complaining about for months and not do anything about it?
Sir, I was not aware that it was continuing to be served here. In fact, as I said, I thought we had discontinued purchasing the item. When I heard a few days ago that it came up as a concern, my first question was, why didn't we stop buying that? I thought we had, and then gave specific orders to have the food product replaced here and for us to stop buying it.
Okay, thank you.
Greg, is the only option a one-year renewal?
Well, Jake, you and I spoke earlier today with the question. Apparently, the contract says that there's a due date for the renewal of April the 1st, and if this Board of Education needs time to work on that, we certainly are willing to give you all more time. That's something that I believe in the state prototype contract. In terms of other pieces of the contract, I believe that either party, I'm not positive on this, but I believe our standard contract amendment has that either party at any time with 60 days notice can cancel the contract. Is that correct, sir? Yes, it is. Okay, so board attorney has confirmed my understanding, and so if the school board chose to renew and at some time during the middle of the next school year wanted to terminate the contract, we would work with you to do the 60 days if that is what you wanted, or if you wanted us even to try to speed the process up, we would work with you to do that. We want what's best for the school, we want what's best for the students of the school. We are committed to working with the school board to do things that are in the best interest, really, of your community. And so if you wanted to proceed under those, you could renew the contract and then still you have 60 days notice. We've never walked out on a school. Some of our competitors have received a notice that they're being terminated and have packed up their bags and left. We don't operate that. Our reputation is critical to us. If we part ways, whether it's now or in the future, our intention will to leave you with serving you and your kids properly until the very last day. And then remove our inventory and go on our way. We value this relationship. We'd like to make it a long-term relationship. We think it can be a good one, for both of us. But ultimately, you have that decision to make. You've got you've got the kitchen workers, the 100 or so kitchen workers, but you also have the teachers, and then you've got the taxpayers. You've got a big constituency that you need to talk to, and that you need to work in their benefit. And I appreciate that. But if we don't have a reputation, we don't have anything. And so you have our assurances we will work honorably as long as you want us in this district.
All right, thank you.
decision as seems like we're facing about every day or at least every week in this district up until, especially over the past 12 months. And I can assure you that, at the day after this was all raised with the kitchen workers, I tried to get a meeting scheduled with the kitchen managers and come up with some sort of plan to hear it out. And so we don't want any of our employees treated unfairly. We don't want our students receiving any kind of subpar meals. And so the challenge of this whole issue, taking over the nutritional services program, the things that I think the board needs to consider, taking over the program under normal circumstances would be difficult. It would be a difficult feat. Under the circumstances that we're currently facing right now is only going to make it more difficult. I don't want to be in business with anyone or any company that is out of compliance with any kind of guidelines. I know those questions have been brought up. I also, with the issues that are there, I don't want our employees going another day without some of the action steps that have been presented to us being in place and taken very seriously also. So I think that those are all things that we have to, those are all real problems and real situations and real solutions that have to be considered when making this decision.
Thanks, Dr. Rock.
Well, I think we've been here long enough. I want to cut through the fat and get to the bone. Like my humor. All right, I move to not renew the OPA contract for 15-16, to authorize board president to notify OPA of such cancellation under the 60-day notification provision.
Second.
Is there any further questions, comments? Debbie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haggard?
Yes.
Mr. Rucker?
Yes.
Mr. Sneeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Danford?
Yes.
Mrs. Prusman?
Yes.
Mrs. Hodges?
Yes.